So essentially, I'm going to cover health and social care qualifications and employability. I'm also joined by my colleague Tracey Patmore, who's the product development manager. So what I'm going to cover is the Entry 3 certificate in health and social care, which is new, which includes employability units, the new Level 3 diploma in adult care, which was live from the 1st of May, new assessment for first aid and paediatric qualifications, and a new Level 2 award in safe use of a defibrillator. So starting with the Entry 3 certificate in preparing for further learning or employment, and the pathway is health and social care. Now this is for 14-year-olds. It consists of 13 credits and is 130 GLH. There is a mandatory core, which are the employability units. There are 3. Preparing for further learning or employment, preparing for an interview and employability skills, and then the health and social care units, introduction to care, health and safety procedures in a work environment, assisting at meal times, and introduction to mental ill health. I'm now going to go through what's in the units. So the first unit is an induction unit that the tutor will do with the learner. So they'll sit down and discuss with the learner what are their qualities, their prior learning skills and experience, and what potential challenges or opportunities they will gain from studying or will face from studying this programme, and the advantages to the learner of addressing these challenges. They will then action plan with the tutor how to achieve progression, either to further learning or employment. A key employability unit is preparation for an interview. So in this unit, they'll find out more about an entry-level job in care or about further training. They'll identify who will be interviewing them, items to take to the interview, and what to wear. And importantly, they'll prepare answers to common questions that are raised in interviews and questions to ask at the end of the interview. And then finally, do a practice interview with the tutor. There is also a generic employability skills unit, which covers the reasons for health and safety procedures at work. They'll carry out a simple workplace task, such as operating a device or piece of equipment. They'll do a task working as a team and look at effective and ineffective ways of communicating in a workplace. So the first care unit is where they will look at examples of different types of care in both child and adult care settings, and the different organisations that provide care in their local area. They'll look at potential entry-level job roles in care locally and what the responsibilities and job requirements would be. And then they create an action plan to support progression into the selected job. There is a health and safety procedures unit in the work environment, so they'll look at emergencies that can happen in the work environment and who to go to for support if that happens. They'll identify common health and safety signs and symbols and complete a simple task following the workplace's health and safety procedures. The next health and social care unit is assisting at meal times, and this could be children or adults. They'll look at what is meant by person-centered support, safe ways of working in care, the clear communication and use of PPE, how they can support an individual, and equipment that can support independence for the individual. And finally, the final unit is introduction to mental ill health. Now, this could enable them to see signs and symptoms of it in individuals, or may make them aware of when they are feeling possible signs of this as well. And it will signpost them to more support or guidance that's available and different ways of maintaining positive mental health. So the facts about this qualification is that there are workbooks for all of the units that I've mentioned that can be downloaded from our e-platform. We're intending to write units at entry 2 and level 1 for the care pathway, and at entry 1 for other pathways. And this is so that learners that might be operating at a lower level or a higher level in some units can do this at the level of the qualification. So this could help learners that have got a learning disability. The centres can use audio and video recordings as assessment evidence. It doesn't have to just be written evidence. And the evidence may be sampled by the EQA in the centre or remotely. There are other pathway certificates that we have prepared, which may be relevant to somebody who's thinking about going into a health and social care context, and particularly if they start the care pathway and decide they want to switch to something else. And these are in hospitality, retail, cleaning and customer service. I'm now going to move on to the new level 3 diploma in adult care, and this is for learners aged 16 years or older. And the target market is learners that already work in adult care in England. They may be lead adult care workers or lead personal assistants, or they may want to become one. So there has been an existing qualification that expired at the end of April. And the number of credits in the new qualification are exactly the same as the old qualification at 58. However, there are more guided learning hours in the new qualification. There are 35 more hours. And you will see also from this table that there are more guided learning hours for the mandatory units. So the mandatory credit is 39 credits and there are 15 units, and there are only 19 credits, 19 optional credits. We've actually changed the unit rule of combination to remove the requirement to do a digital skills unit in one of the optional groups. So now the learner has to achieve 4 credits from the leadership and management group and 15 credits from all of the optional units. I'll explain why we've made that change when we reach the digital grouping. So here are the mandatory units. I'm not going to read through all the unit titles. Essentially, they are the same as they have been in the past. The difference is, in this list, there is a unit on restrictive practice and one on promoting choice and independence for individuals to encourage implementation of best practice in these areas. In the next list, you'll notice that we've split the formerly large health and safety unit of 45 GLH into 2, general health and safety and care and health and safety topics. There's also more emphasis on promoting the learner's well-being in response to the impact of the pandemic on carers. So here are the optional unit groups. As previously mentioned, there's a leadership and management unit. All of the units in this grouping are completely new. The digital skills group came from the fact that Skills for Care identified a need for care workers to embrace digital skills in their working practices. Digital skills are also embedded in the mandatory units, hence the reason why we took out the requirement for them to have to achieve a digital skills optional unit. The specialist aspects of support and clinical skills units are based on previous units, but they have been updated, and in places learning outcomes and assessment criteria have been removed, but nothing has been added. So here are the leadership and management units. We created short 15 GLH units in change management, conflict resolution, developing and supporting others, leadership styles and supervision skills, so that the learner can potentially study more topic areas and could potentially study one or two of these units later on in their career as CPD. The only difference to the topic areas is that now we've included a level 4 unit in adult care inspection to help learners to prepare for one. The digital skills units, we designed 4 level 1 units to give learners that needed it basic digital skills. For example, how to use devices safely online, how to use digital devices to store and retrieve care information, and digital care planning. And all of these units have been contextualized to care. There are 2 units, level 2. One enables learners to look at digital safety and security in more depth, or analyze how they can improve productivity in their work area using digital technology. There are also 2 level 3 units for stretch and challenge in productive thinking skills and supporting individuals through technology-enabled services. Again, that was a previous unit in the specification. So the specialist units, I'm not going to read through the titles. You will recognise all of these. Aspects of support units, again, similar to what was there before. However, we've got a level 4 unit on reablement plans now. And the clinical skills and healthcare units are there as well. As I said, these are all units that have been in the previous version of the specification. So Skills for Care asked us to elaborate on our policy for accreditation of prior learning, and basically, if a learner has already achieved any of the optional units in the specialist clinical skills or aspects of support units, then they can apply for APL for that unit. So essentially, they don't have to do it again in this specification. That's because we've only taken out learning outcomes and assessment criteria in the updated versions of the units. And in the appendix of the specification, I've got a detailed mapping of how the new units map to the previous units. All centre requests for APL, however, must be approved by NOCN. Skills for Care also asked us to elaborate on the assessment requirements, some of these issues have come out of the changes to the assessment principles during the pandemic. We were asked to identify the job roles of possible expert witnesses. They could be a team leader or manager from the setting, or a health practitioner such as a phlebotomist, consultant or surgeon. And there's been a question about the required number of learner observations. Well, we think they should be agreed between the assessor and the learner based on their role and responsibilities. And the observations should be long enough to enable evidence to be naturally occurring. Remote technologies can still be used by assessors. However, it's only in certain circumstances, such as assessment planning and feedback, professional discussion, online team meetings where information is not confidential and the participants have given their consent to being recorded. Planning for supervision, simulated activity if it's allowed in the unit, and the tutor assessor must use a standardised approach to review which units and criteria might be suitable for remote assessment and when the candidate will be assessed in this way. So, for this qualification, there are example assignments for each of the mandatory and digital skills units stored on our vLearn platform with resource lists at the end of each assignment. We also have an e-portfolio system which can be used to store learner evidence for the practice portfolio. And there is an e-learning package for the unit productive thinking skills if the learner wants to use it or the centre wants to use it. So the key strengths of the qualification as identified by Skills for Care is that the mandatory content has comprehensive guidance notes for unit interpretation and application. And we've developed the optional content clearly with good focus in the digital skills and leadership and management skills areas. We've provided clear and extended instructions about assessment requirements in the qualification specification, and there's good stretch and development for learners who will be working towards this qualification. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about other qualifications. And I would say that in the optional units, there is a unit entitled Obtain and Test Capillary Blood Samples. And this unit was also common to NOCN's Level 3 certificate in phlebotomy. So that the learner would be able to APEL this unit if they did the phlebotomy, the certificate in phlebotomy at a later date. Right, first aid and paediatric qualifications. Well, there's been an assessment strategy change at the end of January this year, and it affects these listed qualifications: emergency first aid at work, paediatric first aid, and emergency paediatric first aid. So the new assessments will be made up of two parts: multiple choice question tests, which will sit on our assessment platform and can be accessed from there, obviously, and practical assessments, which will be hosted on our vLearn platform for each qualification. So here are the number of multiple choice questions and the pass marks and the time to complete each of the tests in the qualifications. For the practical observations, each learner has to be observed by a suitably qualified assessor, and they will perform a practical task in relation to the skill that's required to be demonstrated. And simulation may be permitted if the unit details that is so. Obviously the practical observation forms are provided by NOCN on the vLearn platform. Here's an example of a multiple choice question, and obviously they have to answer A, B, C or D. Sample tests are available for each qualification, hosted on our assessment platform as well, so they can try those out in advance. Here is our vLearn platform, and you can see the practical assessments listed here, which can be downloaded for use. And finally, we have a new Level 2 award in basic life support and safe use of an automated external defibrillator. It's a 1-credit qualification which was launched at the end of January. There is a video which covers the required learning for this course on vLearn, and a practical assessment as well. It's quick and easy to do, and it obviously forms a great way of updating CPD. That's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.